It is going through a huge transformation right now because a lot of people aren't watching broadcast TV anymore, especially people that are younger. You're streaming everything. You're not really watching linear broadcast television. But back in the day, when we first started in the 60s and 70s, our biggest form of revenue was pledge. But as the years have progressed, it's been a smaller and smaller piece of our fundraising business. We do a lot online events. We used to throw a gala every year, and we sold hundreds and hundreds of tickets and tables. And so that was a huge revenue generator for us.
In this episode, I'm talking to Kellie Specter, CMO of WNET, the largest public media company in America that raises nearly $150 million per year in donations. We're going to talk about number one, Kellie's early career, working at the historic Greek theater, where legends like Sir Elton John, Aretha Franklin, and Frank Sinatra performed, and how working here shaped the rest of her career. Number two, we're going to talk about WNET's annual budget of $144 million. Where does this money go? How much is spent on marketing? And within marketing, what does a public media company spend this money on? And number three, we're going to try to figure out who the largest donors are and what percent of this comes from the government versus the public. And every time she can't answer a question, we both take a shot of hot sauce. Wish me luck, Martians. I hope you enjoy this one. Hello, Martians. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing on Mars. Today, we have the CMO of a company called WNET Group. They're basically the largest public media company in America. They're based in New York City. They run a lot of channels that you probably recognize. We have the CMO today, Kellie Castruita Specter. Kellie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hi, Simon. Thank you for having me. It's exciting.
Yeah. Well, before we begin anything, we connected a few weeks back, and the theme of the show. We're gonna start out the show with a shot of hot sauce, and then we're gonna, as the show progresses, I'm gonna ask you, harder and harder questions because I want to know all the secrets behind marketing for WNET Group. Before we begin, what weapon of choice? What did you bring on the show? What's your weapon?
I have a little. I did a little mix of a Cholula and a little habanero. So
Okay.
I'm going to take itty bitty little bits of it.
All right, cool. I got a wall behind me. I don't know if you see this.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Got a little wall. So today I think I'm gonna go. I'll start with habanero, and then I'll work my way up to ghost, and we'll see how far I get. So
All right.
I'll grab this middle one here. Let's start the show off right.
All right. You ready?
I got a spoon.
Got a spoon.
Oh my God. Damn it. All right. Cheers.
Take a little bitty one.
I should have taken the little bitty one.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay.
Water.
Well, now I'll shut up because I literally cannot talk. I'm going to pass it over to you. Tell us a little bit about your journey. Maybe give some love to your company currently. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Yeah. So I'm currently the CMO at, as you said, the WNET Group. We are the largest public media company in the U.S. We run about 11 channels. We run the PBS flagship station, Channel 13, Channel 21 in Long Island, NJPBS, which is a network of public media stations in New Jersey. And we have the only NPR station out on Long Island called WLIWFM, and a lot of cable channels. And we just launched a FAST channel, a free ad-supported TV channel, about a year ago. It's at the PBS Nature channel. So that's what I do now. I've been at the company for many years. We just rebranded ourselves from WNET, New York Public Media, to the WNET Group, to sort of let the world know that we are on many channels, including digital channels and including NPR channels. My journey, I'll tell you briefly, I've been in entertainment and music marketing For many years. I started in the early 80s, way before you were a sparkle in your parents' eyes, Simon. And I
Yes.
started in radio, then moved to the concert business. I worked for a concert promoter, the Greek Theater out in Los Angeles, did that for a
Yeah.
while. And then I worked for a record company, a record label, A&M Records, that was started by the wonderful Herb Alpert. I worked there for a couple of years in the Midwest. Got back into radio, and then landed in New York City, and got this opportunity at Channel 13, and sort of worked my way up the ranks. So here I am.
Yeah. Before we even dive into each role, I mean, obviously you worked with incredible companies and now WNET. I've noticed that you've jumped around quite a bit, like from the Greek Theater that was in California, and then you
Yep.
moved over to Chicago, Illinois,
Yep.
and then Philadelphia at
Yep.
the broadcasting station, and then now you're in New York City. You've lived multiple lives almost because you've spent years at each one of these locations. Which
Mm-hmm.
city has your heart? Like, which is it, New York, or do you have a
Oh
different
yeah.
city that you call home?
Well, home is San Francisco, so the Bay Area will always have a place in my heart.
Mhm.
LA it was amazing. It was a great animal, and the Greek Theater at the time. I mean, we
Yeah.
did shows. We did everybody from Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. to the Eurythmics to, I mean, I can't even, it's just like so many iconic, Miles Davis. So I had a great relationship with my boss out there, and it was a great, but it's like you learn and grow and move. And I landed in Chicago and started working for A&M. And I love Chicago in its own way, but my heart is here. I think New York City is just. I continue to learn and grow, even though I've been at this
Yeah.
company for a while. You're all, especially in marketing. We're going to talk about marketing today. Man, it's every day is a learning experience.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
and I'm lucky to do it in the largest market in the country. I'm super lucky.
Yeah, we'll talk about New York later on. I actually want to hear more about what you're doing in the city, but yeah, it's incredible journey so far. 25 years now, going on 25 years at
Yeah.
WNET,
Mm-hmm.
a lifetime there. We're just going to dive into everything and just kind of learn from you. What do you think? Like just marketing overall. So we'll dive into everything. So WNET, obviously you guys own variety of different channels. You guys are in the
Mm-hmm.
public domain.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about how this side of the business works. I assume there's a lot of fundraising involved.
Yeah.
It's, government, it's related to the government. Tell us a little bit about the business, how you guys make money, and just a little bit more, sheds a little bit more light on the company.
Sure. We're a nonprofit organization. I'd only worked for-profit companies before I came here, but we're a nonprofit, and it's a very, very different animal. We get 10% of our money, our operating budget from the government, 10%, which is really a tiny sliver. And that comes from a company called the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. So every year, Simon, if you're an American citizen, you are taxed. I think it's now $1.45 per year per
Mm.
taxpayer that goes to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and they mete out that money to different PBS stations, public
Oh,
television, public radio stations around the country. So that's where the 10% of our budget comes from. That's the government money. The rest of the money that we raise comes from viewers like you. It's those are private donations and donor member donations, and then another piece of our money comes from foundations like the Rockefeller Foundation, the Mellon Foundation, and
wow.
then another portion comes from philanthropists. And New York is a really sort of exceptional market in that we have a lot of philanthropists that give a lot of money to
Yes.
nonprofits that they believe in. So
Yes.
that's the business model. Again, we are a nonprofit, so we don't make profit. We operate at a very, very slim margin. If you've looked at our financials, and I know you have, um, we make about 147 million, and we spend about 144 million. So it's
Mm.
a
Mhm.
again, we're not in the business to make profit. We're in the business to serve the public. So
Mhm.
um, tell me what else you need to know about the business model. I'm not in
Well,
fundraising, so my
yeah.
knowledge is super specific.
Well, you beat me to the punch. I was going to ask you, what valuation the company is at, or how much you guys make in revenue, but it looks like it's about $147 million that you raise through the government and also through all the donations. It adds up to about
Hmm.
147 million. I checked it online. It checks the numbers check out, and you guys are
Yeah.
spending $144 million. I want to talk about the fundraising side. $147 million. You said that a huge percentage of the money comes from donors. Can you name some of, you already named a few of them, but who would be like your largest donor? If you were to say like the top three largest donors, who would
Um,
they be?
I'd have to say hot sauce to that because we don't really disclose.
Mm, okay.
I mean, you know,
Sophie.
we have big foundations, but I can't disclose the.
Sophie is on it right away. Got the light buzzing right away. I'm
All
gonna stick
right,
with habanero because that last one kind of hurt.
all right.
So, all right, cheers.
I have to be honest. I didn't. Mine isn't super hot, so it's very spicy, but it's not crazy.
Yeah. Now, do you eat a lot of spicy regularly?
Well, I think I told you this on our last call. I'm half Mexican, so I grew
Yeah.
up with jalapenos. So I
Okay.
do love spicy. Do love it.
What's the spiciest thing you've ever had?
Oh my gosh. Actually, the spiciest thing I've ever eaten was Indian food. I had a vindaloo once that
Ooh.
made me cry.
Oh.
I love Indian food.
Yeah, it's interesting how different countries and their spices are different. Like you go to, like, if you're good with Indian food, go try Mexican and then that will punch you in the face. And if you
Yeah,
like
right?
those two, you go try Chinese spice and then that will hurt you,
Like
right?
Szechuan, right? Yeah,
Oh man,
yeah.
that stuff kills. Oh man. Okay. So you can't name the biggest donors, but obviously these are large foundations, and a lot of times,
Mhm.
from what I heard, donors don't donate. They don't go through personally. There's always through some form of foundation, so that they kind of hide. They want to hide their privacy, right?
I don't know. I mean, I no, I don't think that's true. I think foundations are set up by usually by individuals. For example, the Rockefeller Foundation. So the Rockefeller
Right.
Foundation was set up by the Rockefellers, and so their money goes through that foundation. So if you're talking
Mm,
about a specific family, I think that could be true,
right.
but for particular donors, not necessarily.
Mm. So like individual contributors, would they like to, like, for example, if I am throwing out a name here, if I was like Bill Gates and I wanted to drop $3 million into, like, would I want to, typically these donors, would they want to announce that they are donating, or would they want to remain
It
anonymous?
just, I mean, it just depends on the donor. You know, obviously Bill Gates, yeah, Bill Gates, founded his own foundation. So, and
Yeah.
he might have more than one. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they like it. I mean, we on our air when we broadcast things, we broadcast, brought to you by. Some people like their names out there, but the
Oh,
biggest donors typically don't like their names out there.
yeah,
Just a
yeah,
thing,
yeah. That's what you said
which you
last
can
time. So
understand. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Um, cool. And okay, so that's on one side,
Hmm.
donation side. Um, Diving into that a little bit further, like, what kind of activities are you guys doing to drive more donors? Do you guys run a bunch of charity events? Because I know that's very popular. Or are there other means
Yeah.
of getting donations?
Back in the day, so again, public television, again, it is going through a huge transformation right now because a lot of people aren't watching broadcast TV anymore, especially people that are younger, as you know, because you're young. It's like you're streaming everything. You're not really watching linear broadcast television. But back in the day, when we first started, back in the '60s and '70s, our biggest form of revenue was pledge. So you'd go to watch your show, and a guy would come on or a woman would come on and say, you like this show, pledge us $10 or whatever it was. That for many years was a huge driver of fundraising for us. But as the
Mm.
years have progressed, that has gotten it's been a smaller and smaller piece of our business, of our fundraising business. We do a lot online. Um,
Mm.
Again, events, we used to throw a gala every year where we'd, oh gosh, over the years, we had everybody from Carly Simon came to one and sang. We had Brian Stokes Mitchell. People that would come out from the entertainment community would come out and support us and put on a performance. And we sold hundreds and hundreds of tickets and tables, and so that was a huge revenue generator for us. When
Mm,
COVID hit, a lot of nonprofits aren't doing these big galas anymore because it's not as popular as it was. We tried virtual
mm,
galas, we did two, we did fairly well, but now we're trying sort of we call them mini galas, like mini fundraisers, where we did a mini fundraiser with Kellie O'Hara, who's the Broadway star, and
yeah.
people paid a certain amount of money to go to see her. So we
Mm,
do things like that. We do news and public affairs, or maybe Christiane Amanpour will show up, and then the donors will come to that. But that's our events aren't as big as they used to be. But again, a big driver for us now, Simon, is online, as you can imagine.
yeah. I've There used to be a lot of big events out here in the Pacific West Coast, and when COVID hit, some of these biggest events, like I don't want to throw out any names specifically, but there were events that would drive out 200 plus C suites and founders in the tech world, because that's where I came from, and there would
Yeah,
be 20, 30 big gold sponsors, and they would do a 2 3 day conference, and these were big tech investor type events. When COVID hit, obviously for 2 years they couldn't run it, and
right.
when they tried to restart it post COVID, they couldn't get anyone to come out, and
Yeah,
these were events that ran for 15, 16 years. COVID
yeah,
almost reset everything, right?
it did.
Talk to us a little bit
No
about that, and
question.
what you think the plan is moving forward. Are we ever going to go back to pre-COVID days, or is it just going to take some time?
No, it's a really good question. I'll tell you what happened at my shop. So what happened is again, Republic Television. So when we were in lockdown, the first thing that happened, as you can imagine, well, as you know, schools were shut down, right?
Mm,
So
hmm.
the head of the Department of Education in New York City called us up and said, "You guys are broadcasting every day. We need your help." So we and the DOE got together and we had teachers on the air teaching classes tied to curriculum. So like I'm not probably remembering this correctly, but from like 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. it was, third grade math. And from 11 a.m. to like 2 p.m. it was, I don't know, whatever, fourth grade science, let's say, whatever it was. So we had to pivot. We had to pivot many, many things. We had to pivot our broadcasts. We had to pivot. People were going into the studios. They couldn't do that anymore. People started shooting in their homes, as you know. But for us, the biggest thing that happened was we were able to serve the community like we've never served the community before. We are educational
Mm,
television, but
right.
never had we had teachers teaching live. And these teachers were amazing. They had the cameras, they had like little iPhones set up in their houses, and their kids would help them teach. The kids would come out with their apples and counting. It was phenomenal. The other thing that pandemic did for us, that lockdown did for us, people started watching us more. People kind of forgot about us. Oh, there's public media. Oh gosh, I'm sick of Netflix, enough Amazon.
Hmm.
People were tuning in droves and they were donating. So
Wow.
we actually got a bump from the lockdown because people were like desperate for content, right? And what we have to offer is really very different. I always evangelize about this. I don't think that people really appreciate that public media is very, very different from anything else that you see on media. Um, Now, fast forward 2 years, right? We had a nice 2 year bump,
Hmm.
but now we're at this place, sort of like what you're saying about this big event. We're like, okay, now what? Um, Broadcast is falling off. We know that everybody's streaming. We're in the streaming game, but it's becoming a little bit more difficult for us to fundraise. We're having to do pivot, do a lot of different things that we haven't done before. We're doing a lot of online stuff. We've had to innovate and doing a lot more online advertising. You and I talked about online marketing last week. Doing a lot more of that now. But as a nonprofit, we don't have the budget, Simon.
Mm,
So We're not like a Netflix. We can't go out and spend millions of dollars for people to come and watch our programming. So we're in a transitional period, but I think it's a good thing. You know.
Okay, I want to dive into what you just said. $144 million that you guys spend per year, and it but what you're saying is that it's really tight budget still. Help us
Mm-hmm.
understand. Help the audience understand. 144 million. Where does that roughly go to? And if you did have more budget, I guess where would you put it? Two questions. We'll start with the
Yeah.
first.
So 70% of our, anybody can go on WNET.org and find out this information because we like to be transparent about our financials. They're right up there and front and center. 70% of our budget goes to programming. So we produce about a third of everything that is seen on PBS, right?
Hmm.
Nature, American Masters, great performances, Secrets of the Dead, these really iconic PBS shows. They are not cheap to produce, but and the other thing I will tell you about public media is a lot of the stuff that we do, we'll spend the extra money to make it the best thing that we can possibly make, right?
Mhm.
So 70% of our budget goes to programming. About 13% goes to fundraising because you have to spend a buck to make a buck, basically. And then about 14% goes into admin. What is that? That's salaries, that's keeping the lights on, that's paying the rent. So that's, sort of the nut that we have. Um,
Mm.
if we had more money, where would it go? Obviously, it would go to marketing. Our marketing budgets are really thin, and the way that we are positioned is that it's not equitable. A lot of marketing budgets are baked into the production budget. So it's not like here's the production budget and then this marketing budget is separate. It's kind of baked in because they're sponsored and there's a lot of it's a little Byzantine to talk about, but it's complicated,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So marketing is almost sounds like it's only a fraction, only a couple of percentage of your
That's
144 million.
correct. It's like 1%, maybe less.
1%. Yeah, it looks sounds like
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah,
1% of
yeah.
144 million, that's only
Nothing.
like a couple of million, like not even
Maybe
2
a couple
million.
million bucks. Yeah, maybe
Couple
a couple
million, yeah.
million. What I like to say, and again, what I like to say about not having the robust budgets that maybe my commercial brethren have, you have to be more creative,
Hmm.
and you have to be more surgical about targeting. Right? You have to really find the right people for your content, and that just takes a lot more thought. We're lean and mean, and I think in the new world, the streaming world, I just think we need to like shake up more money for marketing. We have to. It's a must have.
Yeah. Maybe do you guys have a podcast? Like
We
a
well, we
podcast
have
of
a
this?
few of them. We have a few of them, but why would he have in mind?
I don't know. I've for me, for me, I started my podcasting journey 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and it's been I've been able to connect with people that I've like, for example, yourself. Like I would have never been able to connect with people like you, C suites and founders of hundreds of $600 million companies. Just that would have never been possible had it not been for podcasting. I would say that podcasting is yeah, it's I don't know. For me, it's about the guests. I've had incredible guests on the show, and because of the guests drive viewerships.
Yes, correct. Yeah,
At least that's my that was my like when we had the ex senior vice president of Mattel on the show. We
yeah.
released it 3 weeks after Barbie was released, and that one episode alone got 50,000 views.
Wow.
Obviously, we're a very small production team. I spend $0 on marketing or like any kind of paid marketing.
Right.
But I think if I did, it probably would do a lot better. But I also try to
Absolutely.
keep it very lean and mean. I don't know. Maybe something to consider.
Yeah, I mean, I get, I will take it under advisement. We have a
Yeah.
few podcasts. We have a few podcasts, but they're really tied to programming, mostly tied to programming. So people who enjoy American Masters can go on a certain podcast and listen to the filmmakers, etc. So it's kind of an
Yeah,
ancillary, I guess.
it's a very. I think podcasting is really good for like what you said, but surgical. It's like
Yeah,
spearfishing. Podcasting, you're
yeah,
not going to get everyone because there are millions of different podcasts, but you
right.
will get the people that get you directly, especially like you. Like for me, my philosophy is uh, having fun in business and talking about
Yeah,
marketing, hence the
I
hot
love
sauce
that.
chats. And people that get it will tune in, and it's not a lot of people, but
The right
there's a lot
people.
of reoccurring. It's the right people. It's
Yeah,
who I want
yeah.
to talk to. So yeah.
Listen, that's really, I think that's the philosophy we have too. It's like if you don't have a lot of money, make sure that you're targeting the people that you know will love you. Because we can't
Mhm.
be loved by everybody. We don't have the money to be loved by everybody, you know?
Yeah. So let's dive into that. You got a couple million
Mm-hmm.
dollars in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, where does your money go in marketing to make sure that you're targeting the right people? Where, like, first of all, who are you trying to target and where are you
Yeah.
finding these people?
Right now, our demos are older. They just are, by definition. We are working to get those demos down, because we want younger people looking at our content, and our content deserves to be viewed by a younger set. But we haven't really, we've got to do a better job of sort of pulling in younger people. So right now, let's say our demographics is 35 to 60, 30,
Mm,
34 to 65, let's say something like
okay.
that. So, we're all over social. You and I talked about Roku. We do some connected TV. We're probably going to do
Mm,
more.
mhm.
We, it's a lot of social. We do a lot of organic social that we boost too, because that kind of gives us a little bump.
Right.
Once in a while, when we have extra money, we will do outdoor campaigns around New York City. When we had our 50th anniversary a few years back, and we did a huge outdoor campaign all around the city. That was great. It was super fun. And it's hard to measure outdoors,
Yeah.
especially this is back then when QR codes weren't a thing. But we did
Mm,
see a bump in fundraising, and we just did a huge 50th anniversary campaign the entire year. So that was a bump in itself. And then once
mm,
in a while, if we have extra money, we'll do digital ads in particular publications, particular online outlets. Um, so yeah, I mean it's mostly online, Simon, but basically
yeah.
online and connected TV.
Yeah. So you got paid online, you got connected TV, and then you got outdoor
Hmm.
campaigns. Those are
Correct.
the three main buckets.
Yeah.
If you were to break it down, I'm sure I can find it online. But if you were to break it down, like what percent goes towards paid, what percent goes towards connected TV, and what percent goes towards outdoor campaigns?
That's a really good question. Outdoor campaigns, it's that's like 5% because we don't get to do that often.
Small. Yeah.
I would say social gets the lion's share. Social maybe 60, 70, maybe connected TV 30, 40, something like that. That's where it goes.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
a lot goes towards social. And
Yeah.
is there a channel that you guys like the most because your
Yeah.
demographic is a little bit older?
It's older.
So is it mostly Instagram, Facebook kind of thing,
Yeah.
or what's your favorite
Yeah.
channels? What are your favorite
Instant
channels?
Facebook, yeah. I mean, I love Insta because I like the fact that we can be creative with our visuals, and we do reels, and we've got our nature team does these amazing clips from our shows, and those get a lot of attention. Because we are an older skewing media firm. We haven't really experimented so much with TikTok. A couple of our programs are on TikTok. Nature's Their
Hmm.
American Masters, but I really want in the upcoming year to experiment a little bit more with TikTok. A friend of mine just said, Kelly, listen, TikTok, like the median age now is 30 for a TikToker.
Oh yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting statistic. So I think this year is going to
Hmm.
be the year of us experimenting more. Um, I mean, things like Threads came out, and everybody was like, "Well, what are we going to do with Threads?" And so we all went out and we got our handles, but I don't think really anybody's using it. Um, and X has been really interesting slash a little tricky for us. We're
Hmm.
public media, and right now there's not a lot of how shall I say this? It's not a lot of monitoring going on that platform, and so we have some folks in my shop saying, I don't know, should we even be on X with a lot of hate speech, and we're public media and we're supposed to be, hold ourselves to a higher standard. We're still there, but we use it very judiciously. We use it mostly for our news programs. Um,
Mhm.
but it's going to be really interesting to see where that goes, and to see if Threads does actually catch on.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it is very interesting. It's one of those things that I don't think anyone has the answer, because
Mm-mm.
it depends what you're trying to offer as well. Like for us, we're a podcast, we're a marketing podcast. You'd think that LinkedIn would be the best channel for us,
Right.
but marketing podcasts, people are on LinkedIn for a different purpose than to consume video content.
Mm,
They're there
yeah.
to connect. They're there to connect with people. It's a
Yeah.
business social network. So
Right.
our podcasting content doesn't really do super duper hot there. But when I post about a guest coming on the show, like the other day, CMO of Auto Trader came on the show, and I posted about him. We got 15,000 impressions there. But our number one channel is actually YouTube, and
Wow.
it's funny because YouTube is educational, and
Yeah.
it is educational content, but our best content that hooks people in are the funny content, the jokes, the hot
Yeah.
sauce. But once they get hooked in, now they're happy that there's educational content involved as well. On the flip side, TikTok is supposed to be the funny content, the funny channel, and it's supposed to be the channel for the younger generation. So we thought hot sauce content would do really well on TikTok, but it doesn't do really hot on TikTok. It's
Interesting.
very very interesting. Like it depends on your content, it depends on your platform, and I
Hmm.
think it just comes
Hmm.
down to testing. Like we were testing for 6 months before we found the answer,
Yeah.
and just once you find something that works, just keep going into it. um
Well, this is yeah,
yeah.
okay. So this is really, I love this conversation about marketing because it's about the data, Simon. You know it. I know it. Every good marketer knows it. It's about the data. And I mean, I remember when I first got into radio. This is 100,000 years ago. It was in radio, and all we were like thinking, oh, we were so happy to get like zip codes. Oh, we're just going to market to a zip code. Now it's like it's so interesting to me, like the transformation of data and metrics. And now, you can catch me. You can catch me at home. You can catch me watching TV. You can catch me with the right dress at the right time, and I'm pressing buy. It's like a marketer's dream that back in the day we never could have realized, never could have predicted that. I mean, people always dreamed that, oh well, maybe someday I'll be able to market to an individual. And
Hmm.
it's so
Hmm.
fun that now you can. And so that's been really fun for me. It's been a really fun journey, you
Yeah,
know.
I think what's very important about data is like, okay, now that there's so much data out there, um, the key is like, how are you going to use that data? I think for me
Yeah.
personally, I would love to hear your perspective. For me, data doesn't tell me where I can target people. It tells me if my content is resonating on a certain platform.
Hmm.
Let me
Hmm.
explain. So just because I want to target 20 to 30-year-old marketers, where are 20 to 30-year-olds? The data tells me that they're going to be on TikTok. And the data tells me that they're going to be on, like, I don't know, Twitter. I don't know, TikTok and Twitter. But actually, even though the data is telling me that they should be on there, it doesn't mean that those are going to be the platform that works.
Hmm.
What the data tells me is that my specific content is working on that specific platform, and there's no research that's going to be out there that's going to tell you whether it's going to work or not. You just gotta focus on your content, make the best quality content possible, and the data will tell you if that platform is resonating. For me, that is what data is telling me. And so we just like kind of lean into the areas where data is telling
Yeah,
me it's working, and we kind of shy away from areas where the data is telling us it's not working. And that's really
100%.
all data work, you know.
But you got to have it, and you got to listen to it, and you got to test, right? I mean, I remember there was a time in public media where like data was over here, And if we wanted to produce a documentary and we had the money to produce a documentary on underwater basket weaving, I'm just saying, it'd be like, oh, that's a good idea. Let's produce it, and put it on
Yeah.
the air. And the
Yeah.
data didn't really matter because at the time we were well funded and we didn't really have to think about data too much. We got Nielsen ratings, but it was like, oh, the ratings are over here. Now everything's data driven, everything, and we have
Hmm.
focus groups and we're taking the temperature of the audience, and it's like real media now and I'm big on what you were saying earlier about testing and big on that because in this crazy crowded world your content has to grab, and I don't like the salacious content and I don't like the shock content, but it has to be, to your point, funny and engaging. And if you've got a piece of content and it does well, you know
Hmm.
why,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
it's grabby.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Okay, so you have a lot of different channels. Let's switch
Yeah.
gears a little bit. You got 10,
Yeah.
11 different channels. Let me ask you a hot sauce question here.
Okay.
Which of these channels are your favorite, and which of your channels is your least favorite channel?
Okay. Hot sauce, because I can't tell you.
You can't tell me either. Oh wow. Okay. Okay.
I
Because
can't. I can't.
you can't take favorites. Yeah, of course.
No, I can't. I can't.
Moms
Okay.
can't
Here
take
we go. Go.
favorites. All
No,
right.
that's right.
All right. Cheers. Ooh. All right.
I bet you.
Last time we
So
talked.
you can. Yep. Go ahead.
No, actually, I can't talk. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, can you tell me what brands of hot sauce you're using, or is that a hot sauce question?
Oh no, 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 no. So this one is hot sauce from Cancun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually gonna try this one. I'm gonna try this one now. This is another one
Okay.
from Mexico. So
Ooh.
I'll switch
Okay.
to this one. And then I have ones that you never want to touch. It's like
Okay. It's
it's
like
like a
really.
horror film. Yeah.
Ooh.
Um,
Okay. All right.
I have 3 Carolina Reaper hot sauce on there,
Oh.
which we'll do near the end,
Okay.
so
All
that I
right.
can die and just jump right into a pool right after, right after the hot sauce shot. Um, but yeah, so wait, hold on. So you are, um, were you born in the States, or were you born
Yeah.
somewhere?
Mhm.
You're
I'm
born in the
from
States.
San Francisco. But I'm the
Okay, but
first. I'm second generation American.
American. Okay, and your
Yeah.
parents Mexican?
My grandparents. My
Your parents
grandparents.
Mexican.
My dad is first generation American, and my grandparents are from Mazatlan, on the West Coast because that's where I'm from. Mazatlan, and my grandfather was from a little town in Sinaloa called
Mm,
Zacatecas. And so yeah, it's been an interesting journey. A lot of California, and my mom's side is English, German, Irish. Um, a lot of Mexicans that are actually pure, that don't have any Anglo blood, look like me. So it's a
wow.
little confusing to people
Do
sometimes.
you speak
I,
Spanish?
I speak, yes, I do, but I speak badly because I don't practice enough. But when I'm there, I speak a lot.
I almost said, "Do you speak Mexican?" I'm so glad I did not
It's
say
very
that.
different, but
The hot sauce is getting to my head. It's getting straight to my head. Oh God. Um, all right. So I mean, you have so many years of experience. You've been in entertainment. Now you're kind of in the public media domain. We're not dealing with small budgets here. It's always been big budgets from your background. What do you
yeah.
think is your superpower? Like, if you were to say like the couple of things that just made you excel uh, uh, over many other people that have been in marketing for just as long as you have, like, what do you think is your superpower?
Well, I think okay. That has changed as I've grown in my position, right? As I've grown as a manager, and now as
Yeah.
somebody who's in the C-suite. So when I was younger, I think my superpower was I said yes to everything.
Hmm.
Like I was when I my
Yeah.
first job, I was the sales assistant, and one Saturday afternoon they were selling, the station was selling tickets to some raffle or something, and I was like, "Well, I'll do it." And I was always there. I was always boots on the ground. I loved my job, and I said yes to everything. And I think people saw that and they were like, well, Kellie will say yes and Kellie will get it done. And so that was sort of the way I climbed the ladder as well. It's like, in some places I was recognized for saying yes and being a team player and doing, going the extra mile. Some places I wasn't, but it never stopped me from kind of going, oh, and by the way, when you say yes, you learn. Doesn't matter. You learn. As I've grown in my career, and now I am a manager, and I'm in the C-suite, which is really important because now I run a division, and I have to have great people in my division. I think one of my superpowers is I hire great people, and I let them
Nice.
do their jobs. I let them do their jobs. I don't micromanage. I like to think I'm called uh, what's called a servant leadership, a servant leader, which means that my folks do their thing and they come to me if they need help. I serve them, and as I'm
Yeah.
serving the company, so that's been great for me.
It's so interesting, right? Like how we grow as people. In the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
you said yes to everything and you did a lot. Now you're saying no to more, probably, but now you're passing over you giving the power to other people.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's so interesting how we evolve as people and how we evolve as leaders. Um, what do you think is your greatest leadership trait? Trusting people is one of them. Um,
Yeah, I think so.
can you talk
Yeah.
a little bit more on that? How you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's first of all, I'm a trusting person by nature, but you got to be smart about it. You have to really have a sixth sense about people. I've had people that I've never been betrayed, luckily, knock wood. I always sort of figured out who people were and if I could trust them. And my gut is usually, well, I'd say almost 100% been right. And people trust feels good to people. When you trust people, it feels good to them. Like, oh, I'm being trusted with this thing. And now I'm going to take this thing and like make it the best that I can make it. And I've always just been able to find people who have that attitude, which has been really great, you know.
Yeah,
Um, and again, leadership is hard. I have to say because you take responsibility. That's with great power comes great responsibility. So I take responsibility for the things that I need to take responsibility for, and that means sometimes taking responsibility for other people's mistakes. But that's part of being a leader. It just is,
yeah.
you know.
What do you do? What do you do in a situation where you're growing a leader and you're trusting of the leader and they're amazing, but they're not. Um, but after some time, you realize that they're probably not ready to be a leader. Do you continue and keep pushing forward until they're a leader, or you more like you give certain number of opportunities, or like do you have a timeline on when you expect someone to fully blossom and become that leader that you wanted them to be?
That's a really excellent question, and I think everybody's different. You can hand somebody one thing and they can run it and make a touchdown. You can hand somebody else something and they can run it and maybe make a first down and maybe get down the field, but
Yeah,
they're not making a touchdown the first time.
yeah,
So I think it's about giving enough rope, a timeline, a year, a year,
yeah,
to kind of go, okay, well that person, and listen, I've had experience where a person has been really, really wonderful, but they want the next level and they're not ready for it. And I can't give it in all good conscience. And so I've
hmm,
lost a couple great people that way. And it
yeah,
just happens as a manager, as you know, it's like, it happens.
yeah, yeah, totally. Um, okay, there were a few other things. Before we move on, there's a new segment that we started adding onto the show. I think you're gonna like this one. Um, it's a show. We don't have a name for this segment, but basically, I'm gonna tell you three jokes,
Okay.
three dad jokes or dry, one of those dry one-liners,
Okay.
and if you successfully not laugh for all three, then I'll take a shot of hot sauce. But if you laugh at one of the three, then you have to take a shot of hot
Then I
sauce.
have to. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's see if
yeah.
I can have
So
my poker face on. All right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see your poker face. Okay, so I'm gonna start with some of these are pretty funny. All right. Why does it take pirates so long to learn the alphabet?
I don't know.
Because they spend years at sea. Mm, okay. That's a good poker face. That's a good poker face, right? Um, what do you call this? What do you call this?
I have no idea.
A vicious circle.
Okay. All right. All right, Simon, you got me. It's so bad, it's good.
It's so bad. Okay, all right. I'll drink with you too. Cheers.
Mm.
So this one.
Woo. All right.
Whew.
Mm.
All right. That one is so it makes me laugh every time. So let's learn a little bit more about your background and because you said you were born in California. You joined the entertainment space really early on.
Yeah.
Did you study music or is that how you
No,
got
I
into
didn't.
the entertainment
No,
space? Like,
my education trajectory is a little offbeat. So I went to San Jose State University for 2 years, and I really wanted to get into radio, and I knew I wanted to get into radio. I knew every song on the radio.
why?
I thought I wanted to be a disc jockey.
Hmm.
And so I ended up I knocked on this on the door of the number one rock station in the Bay Area. It was called KOME back in the day. It no longer exists. Knocked on the door for 3 months. I finally got a job there as a secretary, as an assistant, and I quickly learned that I did not want to be a disc jockey
Hmm.
because disc jockeys moved around a lot, and you could get a boss who would come in and not like your voice, and you were gone.
Hmm.
So I learned
Wow.
that, and then I learned there was a job at the radio station called a promotion director, and this job was the person who came up with the quizzes and the games and gave away tickets to concerts. And I thought, well, I like that. That sounds great. So 5 years later, at my first radio station, I was the promotion director. I just kept saying yes to things.
Yeah.
And I finally got promoted. And I decided I went back to school later in my life, but
So
that
how
was
old
my,
were you? How old were you when you first got when you got that director level
I
position?
was I was 22. I was 22.
So you started
And
your
then
career super duper early.
I started my career when I was 19.
Wow.
Let's see, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I was 23. And then when I was 20, about a year later, about a year and change later, I got hired at a radio station in Los Angeles. So then I was now 24 and I moved to LA by myself. And then I left that radio job. I didn't like it very much. And then I got hired at the Greek Theater when I was 25. So I've been doing this for a really, really long time. And I've had a blast. I've been so lucky.
Are you still do you still follow music and entertainment quite a bit?
Absolutely. Oh yeah,
Yeah?
yeah. I'm a harmonica player. So
Harmonica player.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm still
What are your thoughts on entertainment back in the 70s and 80s versus entertainment
mhm.
now? Um, and maybe you can talk from the lens of the American entertainment industry versus the world as well. What are your thoughts? Are we better than where we were before? are there certain trends that you see now that are happening now that you're excited about? Thoughts?
Um, it's so different now, Simon. I haven't really been to a I stopped going to big concerts like a long time ago because I'd been to so many. Like when I was at the Greek Theater, I went to work at 9 o'clock in the morning and I would go home at 2 o'clock in the morning because I stay for the shows and then stay for the after party and blah blah. So I
Mhm.
was like burnt. So the 70s and 80s, um, it was fun. It was simple. You had stadium rock. I mostly liked rock music, so you had stadium, and then like that was it. Now it's a spectacle. Now it's like if you're not on a swing coming from the ceiling, and there's not pyrotechnics, and you're not paying
Yeah.
$400 for a ticket, it's not. It's not anything.
Mm.
You and I had this conversation about K-pop like last week or the week
Mm.
before, and it's a phenomenon that I'm fascinated by, but I don't know much about it. But I know it's again quite different. It's just a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Um, I would just say, like everything, it was simpler back then. It was just simpler and cheaper.
And cheaper. And one interesting thing, and curious to hear your thoughts about it. I think back in the 70s, 80s, there were a lot of groups. Now
Yeah,
it's more focused on individuals, at least in
very
America.
interesting. Yeah,
But
you're right.
in Korea and for K-pop, it's all about groups right
So
now.
groups. Yeah,
And I wonder if groups is the reason for success because now you have multiple people that you can like. If you don't like one person, you can like another person. Versus if
yeah.
you're just an individual song artist, you if you don't like Ed Sheeran, well then you're out of luck.
You
There's
like
only Ed
it?
Sheeran.
Yeah.
Um, thoughts on the group dynamics and if that is that the reason why K-pop is growing so much more and why did America leave the group phenomenon?
I mean, I wish I knew. I think the change in the music business, definitely. I mean, there's not as many people to pay. If you're a single artist, you write the song, it's your song, you own the song, you sing the song, you get all the royalties, and you get all the money from the touring. So you don't have to split anything. I think I'm just being financially, thinking of it financially. So I think that's one big thing. Um, but I also think if you think about the Beatles, like everybody liked a Beatle, right? It's kind of like K-pop now. So my niece's husband is Chinese. His mom is crazy over K-pop. His mom is older than me. His mom is like 70, and she's crazy over K-pop. It's intergenerational.
It's
There's
intergenerational. Yeah.
there's no rhyme or reason. He's like
No age.
he took her to a K-pop concert, dropped her and her lady friends off. He's like, I felt like the dad bringing my kid to a concert. And I said, well, and I asked him, well, do they change over? And he's like, no, 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 they never leave. And if they leave, they leave. They don't switch people because they can't. There's no new loyalty,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah.
fascinating too.
Oh, it's fascinating. I would love to know. I mean, there's no. It sounds like maybe if money is the real reason, maybe we got to stop being as Americans and Canadians. I'm lumping myself in there. Maybe we got to work together more and less
I,
individualism. And
yeah,
if we work together, togetherness is what grows.
I
Is
agree
what grows the
completely.
economy. And I think maybe that's an underlying message for economies. Maybe we got to work together more. And because if we don't, we're gonna lose out to the East that are a lot more. They work together a little bit better than I think the Western side right now.
Listen, Simon, I think that's beautiful, good advice for anybody in any company, in any family, anywhere. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Kelly, it's been a pleasure talking to you about
Me
so many different
too.
things from politics to music to marketing to WNET and in your background. It's been a real pleasure. This was only part one of many. I'm sure we're going to do more in the future. For the people listening, maybe any last messages from you, or do you want to just share kind of like where people can learn more about you?
I think I would just my last message is public media needs you, and you need public media. It is a treasure. It's an American treasure. We produce so much great content, educational, inspiring, uplifting, and I just don't want it to get lost. So if you have a public media station near you, radio or TV, please join, be a member. And if you want to connect more with me, I'm on LinkedIn, Kellie Castruita Specter. And thank you for having me, Simon. This has been just so much fun and very educational for me too.
Yeah, no, it's I grew up watching a lot of PBS channels, and I know right now you guys still, even to today, you guys do a lot of kind of like wildlife channels, right?
Yes, we do. Nature is the
Nature.
biggest show that we have. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's phenomenal.
So, I know nature is a huge category, and PBS, one of the OGs, one of the people, one of the stations that kind of innovated and brought what we're watching every single day to life. So let's definitely let's support what brought us here today. Kellie,
Thank you.
thank you so much, and
Thanks, Simon.
looking forward to our next conversation.
Absolutely. Be well.
So, I hope you liked that episode. Rather than sitting here and telling you to hit that subscribe button or smash the like button, I'll say this instead. Send me a screenshot if you actually liked one of our episodes or you subscribe to our channel, and I'll take the next hot sauce shot with your name on it. Even better, you can come on the show, ask questions, and take hot sauce shots together with the next CEO, CMO, or founder that comes on the show. I hope that you've learned a few things or two listening to some of our episodes. We post every Friday. And finally, if you have any feedback or ways that I can improve the show, let me know. Thanks. See you on the next one.